Hey everyone, this is Yami, your Latina next door. Welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to show you all how to dress up the bases of those little mini Christmas trees that you find at Dollar Tree. So for this first little tree stand cover, I'm going to be using one of these little containers found at your local Dollar Tree, and this is meant to hold like little treats and stuff for the holidays. Now we're going to give this little container a makeover, and I am choosing to create my signature faux galvanized look. Now I'm not going to go too much into the actual process because I do have a video already on how you can create this look, and it's very detailed and it goes step by step, and I'll go ahead and include it in the cards above as well as the description box below so you can easily find it. The key is here to start off with a nice matte gray at the very base, like a chalk gray, and then you're going to add a darker silver on top, and then on top of that you're also going to add a lighter silver using a spouncer or a makeup sponge so you can get that galvanized look. Now I didn't show this here, but I did end up doing the little lid that came with this container as well. Now once you're done painting your base, what I did was I took one of the little mini trees from Dollar Tree and I marked a hole at the very top. Now I will show you guys that I did make a mistake and I made the hole a little bit larger than it should because, well, you can remove that little plastic piece at the end of the Christmas tree. I guess it was a very long crafting day for me and I completely forgot. And I made the hole a little bit larger than what I should have. And here's when I realized that you can take it off. So you can essentially use a drill to create that hole. Now after I was done with that, I took some green foam, again from Dollar Tree. You can find these in the floral section, and these are actually the perfect size. The only thing I needed to do was kind of cut it a little bit lower because I didn't need it to be so high. And I glued it on to the lid of the little container. Once it was glued on to the lid, then I used that little plastic piece and glued it into the foam so that it would stay steady. And I used quite a bit of hot glue in order for it to stay in place. I put the container back together and then I inserted the little tree stem through that hole and into the foam, and it stayed nice and secure. Now, because of my hole being a little bit larger, I wanted to make sure that I can cover it up. And I'm not going to be focusing too much on the trees for this video, but I did want to share how you can add a little bit of extra greenery to make these trees from Dollar Tree a little bit fuller. And what I like to do is add those pine greenery picks from Dollar Tree. And what I do is wrap them around the base and then twist them in order to add more branches to that base. And this will fill up your tree. All you need is one of these little packages per tree. And that is it for this little faux galvanized tree collar. And I actually really like the scalloped little edges that it has on the bottom by leaving the lid on. If you are new here, welcome. I love sharing home decor and DIYs on a budget. I also like to share our renovation journey of our fixer-upper, which we purchased a little over a year ago. So if that sounds great to you, I'd love for you to stick around by subscribing and hitting that notification bell so you don't miss out on a video. All right, back to DIYing. Alright, so this next one is an oldie but a goodie. Now, I used this little tin from the fall Decor line over at Dollar Tree, but you can use any little tin that you have in your home. And what I did was remove the little owls and then gave them a coat of white chalk paint. After the paint was dry, what I did was I took some of the rope from Dollar Tree and wrapped it twice around the top to give it more dimension and texture. And I did choose to cut the rope at each level so that it didn't look messy in the back. I chose to do 3 rows of rope, but you can adjust this to your liking. Now, because this container has a large mouth, you are going to want to cover up that foam with some reindeer moss. And that is it for this tree base. Okay, so for this first DIY, I am going to use this little metal tin from Dollar Tree. I am also going to use this nautical rope found in the floral section. And in order to give this piece of decor a little bit of a coastal look, I'm going to be using this white nautical rope that I found at Hobby Lobby for $1.99, but I got it for half off. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is adhere the nautical rope onto the little bucket. And I'm going to use hot glue for this. And I'm going to work my way around, making sure that I cover every little bit of red from that bucket. Then when I get to the end of that rope, I make sure that that's very tight and secure, and I keep the ropes very close together as I glue them. Then when I get to about 2/3 of the way up, I am going to cut the rope where it kind of goes up every single level, and that's where I am going to attach the new white nautical rope. Now this nautical rope unravels quite easily, so I'm going to use a little bit of hot glue to make sure that it doesn't at the very end, and then I am going to glue it on to the very edge of the nautical rope, and I am going to continue going around. Then when I got to this height, I decided to stop because I wanted to address the little handles. I wanted to cover them up as well, that way you wouldn't see any red. And I ended up using this jute from Dollar Tree as well, and this is what I did. I glued one end of the jute down at the very bottom of the handle, and I started wrapping it around very tightly, using a little bit of hot glue to keep it in place. And now, in order for this to not look messy, you want to take your time and make sure you're wrapping the jute really close next to each other, not overlapping. The tighter and neater you do this, the better it will look. Then, once both handles were done, I continued to glue the white nautical rope all the way around, making sure that I covered the ends of the jute that covered the handles and hid them underneath. And then when I got to the end, I cut the rope and I frayed the end a little bit, and then I glued that on the inside of the bucket. Now the inside of the bucket is going to be covered, however I decided to go ahead and get some white chalk paint and paint the inside top portion of it. That way, in case there's any little peaks or anything, you wouldn't see any red. And this is the finished basket base. Alright, so for this next tree stand cover, we're going to be using this little container from Dollar Tree. You can get it in the craft section. You're going to also need a wide ribbon, and this one you're going to cut twice the length of the circumference of the round container. And you're going to cut it right down the middle. Then you're going to measure another piece of this wide ribbon, and it's going to slightly overlap the circumference of the container. So at this point, you're going to have the one larger ribbon and the one a thinner one. And if your ribbon isn't double-sided, you're going to want to make sure that you're going to put the pretty side down on the table and you're going to work on the inside of it. And what we're going to do is we're going to take that thinner ribbon and we're going to make a little pleated skirt for the very bottom. Now, usually I like to sew little pleats, but since we're using wired ribbon, it's not going to be necessary, and I'm just going to show you guys how to do it with a glue gun. Now, I just started at one end and began folding it over onto itself and adding a little bit of glue to hold that pleat, and I'm working my way down the thicker ribbon doing this. You guys, I'm really trying to use these finger protectors, but it seems like every time I wear them, that's the finger that I use the least. Okay, moving on. All right, so once you've created the little pleat skirt, then you're going to come back and find the little seam on that little container, and you're going to glue one of the edges onto that little container. Now, I would suggest you try gluing down the edge that doesn't look so pretty because the other one is going to wrap over it and cover it up. Now, I use the bottom of the ribbon as a guide to keep things nice and straight, but just take your time when you're gluing it down the edge so everything aligns perfectly. When you reach the other end, you're going to apply the glue along the edge of the ribbon and you're going to fold it in and then glue it that way so that it's a nice finished edge at the very end. You will be able to adjust the little pleats on that end. Now, the very last thing you want to do is fold over the top edge of the ribbon, and you're going to want to secure it with hot glue so that you have a nice finished edge. I added some floral foam as well as some moss to cover up the top portion, and this little tree skirt was done. And this has got to be the preppiest little tree stand I have ever seen. When was the last time you heard somebody use the word preppy? Now for this next tree base, this is probably going to be the easiest one out of all of them. And a lot of times we don't think of little urns for tree bases, but literally all you need is some floral foam and some moss and you have an instant tree base. And a lot of times we don't think about it because we don't use this in our Christmas decor, but I think it looks absolutely charming. Now for this next one, you might recognize this. This was my October's look for less. I recreated this look from Ballard Designs, and I know a lot of you guys have joined since then and probably haven't seen this, so here we go. So the first thing I needed was a base, and I picked up these 2 gift boxes in the holiday section over at Dollar Tree. So the first thing I did was grab these jumbo popsicle sticks and measure the size of the height of each of the little boxes. This is going to be, of course, my little crate. I use my miter shears for this, and it made the process so much easier. Next, I simply use hot glue to attach those pieces on to the little box. I started with both of the vertical sides first. I did have a little piece of sandpaper on hand in case I had any splinters or any sides that were rough, and I gave it a quick sanding before putting it on the box. Once the 2 vertical popsicle sticks were attached, then I measured the horizontal ones and cut them down. And I used hot glue in order to adhere it on as well. This will create that little frame look on the sides of the crate, and you want to remove any excess hot glue that might have seeped out from underneath the popsicle sticks. You're going to then proceed to do this to all 4 sides. Once your square frames are done, then you're going to want to focus in on creating that sweet little X on the side of the crate of the original tree. Now, again, we're going to use popsicle sticks. We're going to use one complete one diagonally and then two smaller ones across. And this is real simple. You lay the popsicle stick diagonally across the face of one side, making sure that both edges are on the inside of that square. Mark it, and then with the miter shears, cut them down. And the cool thing about those miter shears is that you can adjust to any angle you need. Unfortunately, I did not realize that I was outside the frame when I was cutting them down. Now you do want to take your time on this in order to make sure that your X is nice and straight and centered as much as possible. Once the crate has all four of its sides with the crosses done, you'll want to take some white chalk paint, and I'm using my White Adirondack by Faux Galvanized. And you're going to want to paint absolutely everything, making sure you get all of those crevices and creases between the X and the outer frame. Next, we're going to use the Rust-Oleum Chalked Age Glaze. Now, you've seen me use this before to create a wood grain finish, but today we're actually using it as a glaze. And what you're going to do is take a lint-free cloth and wipe that glaze all over that previously painted white chalk paint, making sure you get all those nooks and crevices in order to create dimension. You can apply this as light or as heavy as you like. Then once you're done rubbing it all over the surface, you're going to want to take a paper towel or another lint-free cloth and wipe away the excess. Now, after I wiped away the excess, I did notice that I wasn't getting as much shadows as I wanted around the X, so I took a very small painter's brush and I made sure to get right in there and then remove the excess, and I think that did the trick. And here they are, all 6 of these different little tree stand covers. Thank you so much for watching. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to give it a like. Let me know in the comments below which one of these was your favorite. Now, if you enjoyed this video, I will also put up some more videos on my screen that you can watch right now to get even more Christmas inspiration. Don't forget, I have a second channel, Bienvenidos next door. I share more vlogging style videos where you get to know us on a little bit more of a personal level, and I will be adding even more videos like clean with me and recipe videos. So if that sounds fun, make sure to head on over and subscribe to that channel as well. All right, I hope to see you guys in the next video. Until then, adios.